let's jump into the topic. Let's look at the line of business and industry content for SAP Digital Boardroom and the Analytics Cloud. And the very first question to those of you who know Analytics Cloud already and know the Digital Boardroom already might be what content at all. It's an end-user tool. It's simple to set up visualizations. It's rather easy to use. It's pretty intuitive. It has what you see is what you get editors. Why content at all? And we've put the answers in a couple of bullet points here, because our experience with SAP Analytics Cloud and Digital Boardroom is that, yes, setting up visualizations, building stories on top of existing models is something anyone can do and really business users should do. However, we feel that being able to show beyond the general capabilities of the tool, what you can do based on your SAP data sources already today, without additional efforts, without bringing in more sources than the SAP systems you already run, building on your existing data, using best practices, is something that you would, of course, love to see. In the end, the whole idea of the business content, and this is why we give it away for free for you, the whole idea of the business content is to really accelerate your go-live projects, your projects with Analytics Cloud and Digital Boardroom by tapping into the rich sources that SAP can already provide. You will see in a couple of minutes what I mean by that in detail. But that's the whole idea of the business content. It's there for you to get started quickly and easily with SAP Analytics Cloud. Now, let's look first into what we offer in this webinar, and then what we offer in terms of content. We've got the first question already, why business content at all? And I think I've been able to motivate that briefly. We will share with you, of course, the information about what LoBs and industries are covered. And then it's demo time already, and we will show you how easy it is to install the content. As I said, free of charge. And almost free of effort to get it. So we would encourage you to run it in even today. A brief outlook into who else develops content, so that's the partner offering, and an outlook into what we plan to add to the existing content. And then it's again, as promised, time for a lot of demonstrations. We will show a lot of SAP Analytics Cloud. And just in case you have never seen that technology before, there will be lots that you can learn about the current offer even today in this webinar. So that's what we want to share with you today. And of course, as Adrian said, we will try to answer all questions while they come up in the chat. So let's look into the actual business content. What is it that we have provided? For those of you who've been friends of the webinar series hosted by Adrian here, you will have noticed that there was a talk already at the beginning of the year, and we talked about content for SAP Digital Boardroom and Analytics Cloud. At that point in time, we had just released the first release, and that covered chemicals, consumer products, engineering, constructions, operations, and public sector, as well as the lines of business as finance, human resources, the headcount part of this, tapping into the success factor system, marketing, which is a best practice solution. We'll come to that in a second. And a more technical bit of content. That was the first part of the solution manager. Here, the IT manager cockpit. And that was a fairly comprehensive package at this point in time, but we've added more to that because the technology evolved, and also the capability to tap into more data sources evolved. And of course, it is our goal in the content to present all the possible backend systems as well as the existing technology to you. So we innovated 2 times. Second innovation, you see here, we added retail as a best practice solution and more lines of business. So Concur, our travel and expense solution. We have the human resources, recruiting part to that, marketing, and last but not least, Solution Manager's Test Suite Analytics. And now, this is the reason why we offered this webinar a second time for you. Now with Content Innovation 3, we've been able to work with a lot of projects together. We really gained a lot of traction here within the organization, which of course shows how important Analytics Cloud for SAP is as well. And we added a lot of industries here for you to use. So consumer products, the enhancements here cover, as you can see on the top left, the new technology of value driver trees, for instance. Brand new industries like insurance, enhancements in marketing, oil and gas, professional services, utilities, really big comprehensive pictures. Partly we've worked together with customers and partners to gather their feedback and build on this one. And we've built a lot of line of businesses for you to reuse. So that's Concur, travel and expense, lots of enhancement in that area. Environment, health and safety, brand new line of business. Fieldglass, that's a new connectivity that we could offer to you as well. A lot of enhancements in finance. We will show that later on in the demonstration. Project portfolio management, and last but not least, real-time finance and planning, again, as a best practice package. So we felt that it was really time to roll it out one more time to make you aware of the fact that content is now a very serious offer that you could reckon with and actually set your implementations live in much shorter time by tapping into the rich best practices that we offer here. When we look at this from a more technical perspective, this is what we show in detail within the content. You can see it on the right side. This is the list of artifacts that are included in the content. However, those of you that are not familiar with the Analytics Cloud, let me briefly explain that picture a bit. So the whole idea is, of course, finally to visualize data and to be able to interact with data in terms of planning, simulation, and smart data analysis. Those capabilities come to you within business and within SAP Analytics Cloud in this middle layer with the visualizations and stories. That's the way how you would consume and manipulate and work with data, and you can combine those visualizations and stories into so-called digital boardroom agendas. You will see that in the demonstration, of course. And when we show this to you, of course, the visualizations and the stories will be the most important thing that you see. However, the beauty of the content, the most important thing is really under the hood. So those visualizations and stories are not just demo stories that have been driven by uploading Excel spreadsheets. This is, of course, meaningful in itself to show the capabilities of the tool. But those models have been tailored with great care to really help you in your implementation. So those models here tap into existing SAP data sources, and I've listed just a few of them. So we've got the S/4HANA, of course, and here we have, of course, the two flavors with on-premise and the cloud. We've got BW, we've got SAP HANA. There are other data sources, and I mentioned them when I talked about the lines of business, so success factors, for instance, the hybrids, customer and commerce. We have the Fieldglass connection and others, Concur mentioned. So those models have been tailored to be used productively even. You can disregard the fact that there is sample data, but yes, sample data is also part of the content for most of the models here, and you can upload your own data pretty fast. For those of you who know the SAP Analytics Cloud a bit more, you notice that models come in two flavors. The first flavor would be data acquisition models. Those are models that would read in data from the backend systems and store this information within SAP Analytics Cloud. We have used that technology quite a lot because this is something that would allow us to ship sample data. And let me remind you of the fact that whenever we show something in demos later on, this sample data that you see is exactly the set that you will also get when you download the content. So you can just rerun the whole demonstrations that we give to you. This is capable. We can use that because of the capability of the tool to store that sample data with the models. But also, and this is why I mentioned the best practice specifically in the beginning, we of course ship live connections. Also, live connections are connections that would not replicate data into the cloud, but rather tap into your data sources, onto your on-premise data sources, typically to retrieve data on the fly. For instance, for real-time analyses. This is the real-time finance part. And typically those real-time connections would be wrapped with additional services, with additional information, and this is what we call the best practice packages. You can also download those models but we encourage you to also look at the best practice pages that accommodate them. All the information is in the slide deck. We will eventually later on come to that. I've talked quite a lot about what is in the content and that you should really try and get it even today and run it into your system. So I think you must be curious by now to see how easy it is to get that. So look into the demonstration how to get content and how to activate it.
Yes, thanks for the introduction, Rolf. How to get content. Adrian has kindly posted the link to the blog. So the blog serves as a central entrance to explore our content. Here, besides the link how to get the content, we feature again or to answer the questions, what is the SAP Analytics Cloud content, why content, and what is included. So that's always a good place to check, where we also frequently update this blog, and then you would immediately find out when new industries, new LoBs, new packages has been released. That will be all posted here. It's always a good bookmark you should have when you work with SAP Analytics Cloud content. And then we have also here two screenshots away to give an impression what you can expect when getting the content here. Finally, that's what I want to show you, how I can get the content. So currently it's a kind of we call a three-step approach. So you click basically the link that goes to the SCN store. So I've prepared that. If you go here, that is the page you will end up with. So here you would then go for it's called trial version. Here you go for the trial version. You fill out your data, tick the checkboxes about the terms and conditions, and would finally get a confirmation mail. So that's the mail you will receive immediately. In case there is an issue, please use also the blog for posting errors or questions around that, and we'll be happy to support you here, or use the email address also provided in the blog. Basically, then the link in the email is valid for 48 hours, and that brings you then to a download store. You press the download button, and then you get a packed file, this zip file basically here. And this file contains two other files. It's the content as such. It's also a TGZ file, another packed format, which can be interpreted by the SAP Analytics Cloud. Plus then documentation Rolf has also mentioned, where it is explained how to use it, and for the LoB industry part, in which sources we tap in and how to map them and how to map it in your landscape to our content. That's basically it, and then in the Analytics Cloud system, you just press the import use the import functionality, and then you can either choose to activate all, import all content, or select certain areas. So you would, for example, that would describe, type in an area like chemicals, and then you get presented the chemical artifacts, and as we have a boardroom there, you just tick the highest level, and all dependent objects will automatically be selected and will be imported into your system. We are also evaluating currently how we could streamline that whole import process. So let's see, but we think of having something integrate already in SAP Analytics Cloud would even make it much easier, even if it's only a three-step approach here. So stay tuned how to consume, or say install the content in the future, but still also this is quite straightforward, so no additional steps needed here. With that part of the demonstration, how to get the content, I would hand it back over to you, Rolf, before we step into the demos of the content as such, to share a little bit of theory, but not too much.
Great, yeah, thanks for that. So I think we were able to convince you that actually downloading the content is easy, and it's something you should do today because it runs in almost unattendedly. We've posted the link to the blog. This is where you can get this. But before we go into the details, we would like to briefly remind you of the fact that we are not the only ones here within SAP to develop content. Of course, an application like this gravitates. So obviously partners have started doing the same. Currently we host them in a different format. So if you're interested in seeing what our partners have to offer in general, and that would of course include content for SAP Analytics Cloud, you please go to the SAP App Center here. I guess you know about this, so we won't flash this today, and the link is also in the slide. We have frontrunner partners that have started that, so there's lots of content here to be seen as well. We already have some questions in the chat how to guide us also to what you expect to see in the content. So there were questions around the BPC integration. That's a nice recommendation, of course. But we have also plans that we would like to share with you what currently is on our list of things that we would like to build on. Again, our guiding principle is here to show within the content the capabilities of the technology. So planning is, of course, already enabled, and you will see that in the demos that come up. But with more and more connections coming up and with more and more capabilities coming up, we try to add, of course, more LoBs and data industries here. So financial services performance management, a brand new solution in that banking insurance space. That's something we will tap into soon. By design, a whole new sort of application coming up here. That will be a part of the upcoming content. We will investigate again and invest in consumer products. So customer feedback will flow into this as well. We will add in the chemical space, especially, I guess, in the financial area. And then there are additional enhancements, either on new packages or new models and planning stories within the best practice packages. So professional service, we will add to that. Real-time finance will by now really live up to its name and include the planning as well. And we will also invest into hybrid marketing. Those are our plans. And of course, suggestions that we pick up here in the chat might guide us into also reconsidering packaging, for instance, planning specific packages. That is something we currently have not for you to show, even though planning is part of the content. So we will really pick up that hint and think about this. Thanks for that recommendation. Next slide would show you about the content in detail, and of course I promised a lot of demos, but I would like to briefly show how you can work with the slide deck, and that's something we hope you can leverage even before downloading the content. So if you're interested in seeing what we have to share in detail in the industries or in fact in the LoBs, you can use the slide deck also here. So you can see that we have the list of all industries, and behind each of those, here we have at least one page of PowerPoint. So if we click, for instance, on the chemicals part, you would see on one slide the most important KPIs, the most important business areas that we cover within that industry. You would see a couple of screenshots and thus get a first good impression of what the content really covers. And if that raises your interest, well, you've already seen how easy it is to get the content and install it. So with that slide deck, you can really get a comprehensive overview. And we have that also for the LoBs, so let's briefly flash that. LoBs, of course, same principle here. I've mentioned it already. The best practice content is special in the sense that best practice has typically used the live connections, the live models. That is, of course, something that we expect you as customers will also do, but it's more difficult to provide sample data with that. So they have decided instead to offer additional services around their content. And if you are curious to understand what those services are, we would encourage you to visit the so-called Best Practice Explorer. We've just flashed a screenshot here. All the packages that they offer would be listed here. Their whole idea is to drive the adoption of the S/4HANA with best practices, and this is why their content focuses a lot, but not necessarily only on data coming from the S4. And as I said, they offer services around that. This is why we treat them specifically here, and if you're interested in learning this, here's the link. So that's how you can use the slide deck, and I think as you can see here also for the best practices, we have those one sliders to let you know what they have. I believe the one-sliders are very meaningful to work with if you want to get an overview, but it would be much better to see live in the system what it is that we can show. And from here on, it's really demo time.
The best way to explore the content is just browse the file section, because we have structured the content in folders so that you can get easily an overview of what is in there. As you have heard, we have two packages, the best practices package and the rest, the remaining content, and these are the two folders you find in the public section. And now today we will focus here on the LoB industry content here, and that's the whole list of content which we have released by now. I mean, that's what is covered in the previous slide. So all our three releases cover anything from chemicals to the financial LoB until the Fieldglass. Let's tap in the financials as advertised. So this is also the area we have invested here in the latest content innovation. And let's check the agenda. So we have an agenda here, like for most of the content. And here in the financials area, we structure or the data we show as in the growth and the profitability and the liquidity agenda item. That's also used here within SAP, and as we have built the content and got feedback also from customers, that's I think a meaningful way how you would approach your financial figures. We have here a classical, traditional, or a well-known three-screen setup for a digital boardroom here, with the overview page on the left-hand side, which would stay stable of all those agenda items we have here in that template. So you have the growth part in here, we have the profitability part and the liquidity part. The value-based management is also on the first page, but currently there's no detailed information available. That might come at a later point in time. So you see we have our screens, but let me enlarge it. It's easier for you on the screens to see the figures better. So now we have entered the growth area, and here the net revenue is our top KPI. While absolute numbers for sure are relevant, I think it really matters to see the variances. So how did we perform to the previous year, to the plan, and also year-to-date figures? That's all on that first overview in that first part in the left upper area here. So, and then we always try to have a view over the time that you can understand. Is it a trend in the positive, negative way? Was just the last quarter not so good? But that also gives you a good understanding, or a first understanding of your net revenue, which is here in the growth area. And now you want to obviously look a bit more in detail. So where does my net revenue come from? Sorry for that. So in the middle screen, we do a first breakdown. So I think it's relevant to understand from which business area does the net revenue come from, or in which segments do we do our revenue. You see our roughly 191 million. That's how it's distributed across those business areas, segments, and the country. And again, we show here a trend over time. So how was the overall trend? So is something changing fundamentally in my areas, in my segments? It would also already help me understand my data better. While this is here now a year-over-year versus previous quarter view, we think it makes sense to also have a same breakdown, but look at the actual versus plan data. So that's now basically a similar breakdown in the business area, segment, and country. But here now having the plan figures here, and you would understand, okay, we are below plan, and also for the country, only one country stood out a little bit, but in general, the figures don't look so good here for that data. What we offer in, I think, nearly all content cases is the so-called Explorer mode. This opens up the possibility to go beyond what we have defined here. While this is still, I think, a meaningful breakdown, it might not be sufficient, or you might want to answer a different question or additional question. So what the Explorer mode is, it brings the ad hoc capabilities here into the boardroom meeting or any meeting you have, basically. So what you could do, for example, you could now drill down on the material group, because that seems to be an area you want to ask a question. So either do a drill down, or you do a filtering and do a drill down afterwards, but really do ad hoc analysis on top of the existing charts which are shown in the initial setup. You can also here switch the charts. So if you find another chart for what you look at more relevant, just choose here to change the chart. Once you're finished, just leave it and get back to your agenda. On the right side, we try to detail it even more down and give you additional insights in the data and the net revenue. So here we calculate effects, so the price effect, the volume or a mix effect. So what are these effects related to the net revenue here? And again, we do a breakdown here by the material due for the contribution. While, as I think already shared, we try to have really meaningful business content here and tap into the SAP sources, we also want to show here the capabilities of SAP Analytics Cloud. As you know, we are not a BI only tool. We have BI, we have predictive, we have planning here included. So that's what we also want to show here in the content. And for that part of the content, we have used Smart Discovery functionality here. So this is inbuilt here. You have it at a click here. And this Smart Discovery analysis should answer the question, what influences my net revenue? And here, the result is from the underlying data, the customer group and the material group has a big influence on the net revenue. So then we see here a breakdown for our top 2 influencers, and the net revenue average is here the key figure. And all of that, you would now be able to do further activities. For example, is my assignment customer group still okay? Does it match to what I see here in the figures? And then in the lower part, I'm even getting a drill down the customer groups and in what material groups they do the most revenue here. Then let's get back where we left off. So that brings us back to the right page in the growth area. So this would cover the growth. We could go back to the agenda and look at profitability. So what I said, the profitability agenda item will bring up the very same left screen, the overview screen. So that's the profitability part here. And here EBIT and EBITDA are main key figures you want to look at. We see here the trend over time. Again, very important to understand your figures. On the detailed page, so the middle screen, you will now see again a more detailed view on your data. So we see the profit margins and the breakdown of the gross revenue. So to even better understand your figures again. You have a breakdown of the gross revenue here also in a nice waterfall chart here that you understand how you get from A to B here. Then the legal entity, I think, is obviously an important part. So where does your profitability come from? And again, we show here over time how the EBIT and the gross profit evolved. On the right screen, we offer a very detailed information. As you see here, that's the chart of accounts. And here you would be able to really drill into a single account and understand the figures that have been shown on an aggregated level in the previous screens. So that should hopefully give you a good impression of what we offer in the financials content. And I now wanted to step into industry content. I want to show you the very new oil and gas content here. When you see the agenda, this obviously looks already pretty different. So we have LoB information like financials and human resources, which we reused in more or less any industry agenda because that information you would always look at when you have, let's say, quarterly meetings and want to get a broad overview of your company. And then obviously you have industry-specific topics here. Like for the oil and gas business, we have the upstream production cost, downstream portfolio performance, downstream supply chain performance. Let's step into the second agenda item to see on the upstream direction product costs. Again, the overview page will cover here the information from all agenda items. That's why it's also a little bit more packed because we have more areas to cover here in the area of oil and gas than we have covered just for the financials LoB part. So we have some top KPIs from the FI space on the left side, so that's the gross revenue and the contribution margin. We see the financial overview for the current year, so over time we get an understanding of our EBIT and our contribution margin and the ROCE key figure. That gives you again, on the first page, an insight into the area you're in. As said, we are in the upstream production cost. So let's look in more detail in the upstream production costs. And here we get a breakdown of the production costs. So we want to see the direct material costs, the direct labor costs, and direct energy costs per cost center. As over time, and for different cost centers, as said. Again, here we would offer the Explorer mode to do further analysis on the data you see here. On a detailed screen, we have again now expanded or leave at least the more traditional BI reporting part to have here planning or simulation capabilities in. So this is here now simulation of cost, which you can do here. And then, for example, you want to change the reference price. Assume this goes up to 60. You can also use the slider to change that. And as soon as you do change here the value, you would immediately see here the simulation value in the chart, and that really goes beyond BI and would you immediately give you additional insights. What would have happened? What if? So what if analysis is perhaps the right term you could use in here. Let's briefly flash another agenda item that you get an understanding what we deliver here. Let's step into the investment decision for capital and FTO projects. Again, we start, if you go via the agenda on the first page, you can also navigate basically here on that page if you have the real 3-screen layout. And now you would look at your projects to get an understanding of your budget and costs. So obviously you want to understand how well do your projects run, comparing costs, planned costs and actual costs, and test the deviations here. Then we also put here expected commercial value. So the outcome of the project, I think, is an interesting view on your running projects. And the probability of commercial success has been visualized through that chart here to also get an understanding of your projects. We very often also our filter capabilities. So there are some initial filters here which you can use to filter the existing dashboard, or again, just to repeat it, use the Explorer mode to answer any individual questions you have and is not on this predefined level here. Then on the detail page, we want to show their total costs and expenses from those projects for one project here. So that would be the pipeline in Alaska we are showing here. And you could imagine in this industry projects not run only 4 weeks, but really years. They really span the time much broader. And that's why you would have a view here covering several years and to also understand how your costs evolved, if they are in plan, how are deviations. This gives you additional detailed insights into your project here, a particular project, and then you could change that obviously. And again, the Explorer mode is offered here, which is indicated using these 3 dots here. Yeah, with that, I want to close the oil and gas demonstration. So again here, a broader agenda because we cover general topics, finance and human resource again, but also then special topics. And here, special to utilities area is currently the renewable energy topic. So let's step on that here. And we will now see again the overview page covering. We see similarities to other to the oil and gas industry. That's partially, I think, they are close, and really such an overview page with having those central elements like the financials and the HR. You will reuse that one, and that's also the idea. I mean, we reuse our own, let's say, LoB content in those different industry agendas. So we start here with the renewable energy topic, and let's immediately go to the second page. So that is what we have learned and what the feedback was is with a really relevant view on that topic here. So obviously we want to see how is our renewable electricity contract trend. So this topic of renewable energy is picking up and to what extent. Obviously CO2 emissions is also relevant, And there, as this also does not change overnight, you really want to see a long time trend over many years back. That's why we also have chosen here to visualize how we have learned. A customer would look at that. So it's really 7, 10 years and even more back here. We also show here the average electricity revenue and consumption in the last month. So that seems to be interesting to get a better understanding here. And also the renewable electricity revenue ratio in the last month. So here, as said, time series are as relevant as in others, but I think longer time series are more relevant here because things doesn't change overnight. On the right screen, we have used a geomap, which we have also in many industries and LoBs here, where it's useful. So here you can now visualize the renewable revenue ratio for an area here. That's quite neat here to use the geomap to visualize that instead of let's say, traditional chart, because here it's really relevant in what area you have what ratio, and that's easy to pick up with the geomap here. Also, again here, filtering possibilities you can use. That's a given here. See, these capital and projects is kind of similar because it reflects obviously utilities projects. Let's tap into the customer engagement for to flash a second agenda item, a second topic within the utilities area here. And here we show, our customers look today in the social media. For example, you want to get an understanding of social media posts in the last 7 days, or which are the communication mediums used. Also, customer contacts last month. So anything which has to do through various channels with your customers to be informed where the pulse is, kind of. Then we have dunning information in here. So on a top KPI level here, and again what happened during the last month. On the detail side, we dig even deeper into that kind of information. So, for example, what were top 5 interest or negative sentiment the last days, and the positive ones, obviously. So all around those contacts here. Well, the customer complaints, I think, are important. So what are the main areas where we see issues here? So I mean, obviously an outage happened in June. That's why this goes up. Perhaps there's not so much to do from, you never know where the outage came from. It might have been external forces, but obviously if the incorrect bills kind of increased, you might want to look into that more in detail, because there's an internal process which you hopefully should be efficient enough, but perhaps you have changed something, but this gives you also an idea in that area here.